Listen carefully, because what I am about to tell you will explain why your life keeps repeating like a loop. The same problems, the same patterns, the same heartbreak, the same failures, the same people, and the same version of you. You may think you're trying to change. You may be working hard, reading books, watching motivational videos, repeating affirmations, but nothing is shifting outside, because the real prison isn't around you. It's inside you. Your subconscious mind is replaying an old timeline, a timeline shaped by your trauma, beliefs, memories, and emotional wounds. Until you change what's happening inside, nothing outside will change. That is the observer effect. Reality organizes itself around the one who observes it. If the observer, you, remains the same, the timeline cannot shift. Today, I will show you exactly how your subconscious keeps you stuck and how to break free so you finally shift into the timeline meant for you. Let's begin. Your subconscious replays old wounds, not new dreams. When your past carries memories of pain, rejection, abandonment, or fear, your subconscious mind quietly stores those emotions like files on a hard drive. Even if years pass, those invisible emotional files continue influencing the decisions you make and the relationships you choose. Your conscious mind may say, "I want a better future," but your subconscious is still operating from an old script, a script written during painful moments in your life. The subconscious mind has one main job: to keep you safe. But its definition of safety is not based on happiness, growth, or dreams. Its definition of safety is based on familiarity. Whatever it has experienced before, it labels as safe, even if that experience was painful. This is why so many people stay trapped in repetitive experiences. They meet the same type of partner who breaks their heart. They attract friendships that drain their energy. They fall into habits that waste their time and potential. Whether it is procrastination, self-doubt, people-pleasing, or fear of trying new things, the cycle repeats again and again. To the subconscious mind, familiar equals safe, and new equals dangerous. So even if you dream about success, confidence, love, or abundance, your subconscious may resist those things because they feel unfamiliar and uncertain. It is not trying to destroy your life. It is trying to protect you from what it doesn't understand. This is why someone who grew up around chaos can feel uncomfortable in a peaceful environment. Someone who grew up feeling unworthy may unconsciously push away healthy, loving relationships because they feel strange or undeserved. Someone who experienced failure early in life may avoid taking risks, even when they are capable of succeeding. This pattern is not random or unlucky. It is programming. Your subconscious is simply replaying emotional patterns that were formed long ago. It does not care about the goals you write down, the affirmations you speak, or the dreams you visualize. It cares only about your identity, who you believe you are deep inside. If you secretly believe you are not worthy of love, you will be drawn to people who confirm that belief. If you believe money is difficult to earn, you will unconsciously behave in ways that keep you stuck. If you believe life is unfair, you will notice situations that reinforce that belief. Your life timeline cannot change unless your internal identity changes first. You don't attract what you want, you attract what you deeply believe you are. As long as the subconscious mind holds on to old emotional wounds, it will continue guiding you back into the same familiar timelines, repeating the same emotional experiences with different faces and different situations. When you begin healing those wounds and updating your inner identity, the programming starts to shift and your external reality follows. Trauma locks you in a frozen version of yourself. When you go through a painful experience such as heartbreak, humiliation, abandonment, betrayal, the loss of someone you love, or a failure that shook your confidence, something inside you freezes. On the outside, you keep growing older, you learn new things, you meet new people, and life continues to move forward. But inside, a part of you becomes stuck at the moment the pain occurred. That younger version of you, the one who was overwhelmed, frightened, or confused, remains alive in your subconscious mind. This inner fragment holds the emotional memory and continues to influence the choices you make long after the event has passed. Because of this internal freezing, you may find yourself reacting to situations with fear, doubt, or avoidance, even when nothing dangerous is happening. You might avoid relationships because the inner child still remembers the pain of abandonment. You might avoid trying new opportunities because the past failure still feels too close. You may sabotage moments of happiness because a part of you believes joy will only lead to disappointment. Even though your conscious mind wants growth and progress, the frozen part of you is still operating in survival mode. It learned that the world is unsafe, that people cannot be trusted, or that you are not worthy of something better. This is why people so often repeat the same emotional patterns. A person who was abandoned might keep choosing emotionally unavailable partners. Someone who was criticized might still doubt their own worth, no matter how much they achieve. Another person who was betrayed may feel unsafe, forming close relationships. The mind is not trying to harm you. It is trying to prevent you from experiencing the same pain again. The subconscious uses the past as a reference point, assuming that what happened once could easily happen again, so it takes control and limits your choices to keep you safe. The problem is that this safety also keeps you small. When your inner world is frozen in an old moment of pain, your outer world remains frozen too. Your timeline stops evolving because the version of you making decisions is still the wounded version. You might be physically grown, but emotionally, a younger part of you is in charge. This creates a conflict within you. One part wants to move forward, reach higher, and explore new possibilities. The other part wants to stay still, avoid risk, and stay hidden. That inner conflict is exhausting because you are pulled in two directions at once. Every time life offers you a new timeline, the wounded part of you hesitates. It might tell you to settle instead of reaching higher, to stay silent instead of speaking the truth, or to accept less than you deserve. It learned these behaviors as a way to survive pain, but now those same strategies keep you trapped. You find yourself repeating the same emotional story, the same disappointments, the same fears, the same self-protection, even if you consciously want something new. Trauma anchors you to the past. It prevents you from seeing life through fresh eyes. It keeps you living in yesterday while your future waits untouched. Healing begins when you gently acknowledge that a part of you is still hurting and needs attention. When you stop ignoring your wounds and start understanding them, the frozen energy begins to melt. Only then can you move from surviving to living, from repeating to evolving, and from being stuck in the old timeline to stepping into a new one. The observer effect makes your reality match your inner state. There is a principle in quantum physics called the observer effect, which suggests that the very act of observing something influences what becomes real. In simple terms, your inner state, your beliefs, emotions, and expectations plays a major role in shaping the reality you experience. This means that life does not simply happen to you by chance. It unfolds based on the way you perceive yourself and the world around you. You are not only living inside a reality, you are also participating in its creation. Most people believe that change begins with external action. They think switching jobs, moving cities, or meeting new people will create a different life. And yes, physical changes matter, but they are secondary. What truly determines your timeline is the observer within you, your subconscious mind. This is why two people can face the same opportunity and have completely different outcomes. One sees potential, takes inspired action, and succeeds. The other sees danger, holds back, and remains stuck. The opportunity was the same, the inner observer was different. Your conscious mind may say, "I want better," but your subconscious may still believe, "I don't deserve better." And the subconscious always wins because it is the deeper, more powerful layer of the mind. It is responsible for more than 90% of your thoughts, decisions, instincts, and behaviors. If the subconscious holds limiting beliefs about who you are, then your actions, relationships, and results will reflect those beliefs, no matter how hard you try to change consciously. This is why affirmations and positive thinking often fail. If you tell yourself, "I am confident," but your subconscious remembers every moment you felt small or embarrassed, the subconscious will override your words. Your internal truth, not your spoken desire, shapes your reality. Life mirrors the emotional energy you carry. Someone who internally feels unworthy will attract situations or people who reinforce that feeling. Someone who fears abandonment may unintentionally push others away. Someone who believes life is against them will interpret every setback as proof of that belief. This has nothing to do with superstition or blind optimism. It is a psychological and energetic fact. Your nervous system filters reality to confirm what you expect. If you expect rejection, your mind pays more attention to signs of rejection. If you expect failure, you notice obstacles more than opportunities. If you expect success, you see possibilities where others see problems. Your focus guides your perception, and your perception influences your actions. Over time, those actions shape the timeline you experience. Think of the subconscious as a projector. Whatever is stored inside memories, fears, beliefs, gets projected outward into your life. You can upgrade the external screen only by changing the internal film. This is why many people repeat the same life experiences. They never change the internal programs that guide their perception and behavior. Their timelines loop endlessly, not because life is unfair, but because their inner observer has not changed. When you shift the way you see yourself, you shift the way reality responds to you. If you begin to believe that you are worthy, capable, and guided, your decisions will reflect those beliefs. You will take actions that align with growth, not fear. You will interpret challenges as opportunities rather than threats. You will begin attracting people and experiences that match your new inner state. The world outside will seem to change, but in truth, you were the one who changed first. The observer effect reminds us that reality is flexible and responsive. You are not a passive character watching life happen. You are a participant influencing every moment. When you take responsibility for your inner state, your beliefs, emotions, and self-image, you unlock the ability to shift timelines. You do not have to force the external world to change. You only have to become the version of you who naturally belongs in the timeline you desire. When the observer evolves, the observed transforms. You keep manifesting what you haven't healed. Life has a way of bringing the same lessons back to you again and again. Not because you are cursed, unlucky, or unworthy, but because there are wounds inside you that have not yet been understood, accepted, or released. Every unhealed emotion remains active within your subconscious. It quietly shapes your thoughts, behaviors, choices, and relationships. Even when you try to move forward, that unresolved energy pulls you back into familiar situations that carry the same emotional flavor as your past. Think of it like a signal that keeps broadcasting from within you. If the signal is built from abandonment, you will continue to attract people and circumstances that make you feel abandoned. If the signal is built from rejection, you will encounter situations that mirror that same feeling. If the signal is built from fear, Life will keep giving you opportunities where that fear is triggered again. It is not punishment, it is repetition for the sake of healing. Life brings you back to the point of pain not to break you, but to show you what still needs your attention. Sometimes people wonder, why do I keep ending up in the same kind of relationship? Or, why does the same problem keep happening to me? The answer is that the emotional story living inside them has not changed. They have not healed the original wound. So even if the faces change, the story remains the same. The same dynamics repeat because your subconscious is trying to finish what was left unresolved. Until the lesson is integrated, the pattern will continue. The subconscious mind does not understand time. It does not separate past from present. If you experienced pain years ago, the subconscious still sees it as a current threat. So it tries to protect you by recreating familiar scenarios where you can finally respond differently. It is almost as if life keeps handing you a new chance to reclaim your power, rewrite the ending, or finally release the emotional tension you once buried. Many people try to escape their patterns by running away, leaving their job, ending relationships, or relocating to new environments. But unless the inner wound is healed, the pattern follows. You can change the city, but the emotion travels with you. You can switch partners, but the same dynamics appear again. You can silence your mind with distractions, but the feeling always returns. Healing is not about escaping your past. It is about facing it with new awareness, so you no longer carry it into your future. Unhealed trauma is like emotional residue stuck in the nervous system. It influences your body, thoughts, and choices without your awareness. You might feel intense reactions to small triggers. You might avoid opportunities even when you want growth. You might distrust people even when they show genuine care. These are signs that something inside still hurts and needs care. Ignoring the wound does not make it disappear. Suppressing it only pushes it deeper, where it continues influencing everything silently. To break the cycle, you must allow yourself to feel what you once avoided. Healing happens when you stop running from your pain and turn toward it with understanding. When you acknowledge your emotions rather than deny them, you release their grip on you. When you confront painful memories with compassion, the emotional intensity begins to dissolve. This is not a mental process alone, it is an emotional release. Feeling is the doorway to transformation. Healing is not about forgetting what happened. It is about freeing the emotional energy trapped within the memory. Once the energy is released, the memory no longer controls you. The event becomes something that shaped you, not something that defines you. The moment you heal, you stop attracting the same lesson because your inner landscape has changed. The signal you broadcast becomes different. Instead of sending out pain, you send out clarity, strength, and self-worth. As a result, life responds differently. You do not attract what you want, you attract what you are emotionally aligned with. When you heal the heavy emotions living inside you, your alignment shifts. New opportunities, healthier relationships, clearer decisions, and more peaceful experiences begin entering your life. The timeline changes because the emotional story within you has changed. Life will keep whispering, then speaking, then shouting until you listen. Every repeated situation is an invitation to heal. When you accept that invitation, you break the loop. Your past no longer steers your future. You walk into a new timeline not because the world suddenly changed, but because you finally changed from within. Your identity defines your timeline. Every timeline you experience in life is shaped by one powerful force within you, your identity. This identity is not your name, your age, your job, or the roles you play. It is the invisible story you believe about yourself when no one is watching. It is the quiet voice that answers the question, "Who am I?" And whether you realize it or not, That answer decides what you allow into your life, what you chase, and what you push away. You can set goals, dream big, work hard, and want great things. But if your inner identity does not match the life you're trying to create, you will always feel blocked, stuck, or pulled backward. You might desire financial success, but if you secretly believe you're not capable, worthy, or prepared, you will sabotage opportunities or settle for less. You might dream of a loving relationship, but if your identity says, "I am hard to love," you will struggle to accept affection, trust others, or remain open to people who genuinely care. The subconscious identity always wins, because it is the core reference point for every decision you make. Identity is formed through experience. When you are young, you absorb beliefs from your parents, culture, friends, and the environment around you. If you were celebrated, you learned that you are valuable. If you were criticized, neglected, or compared to others, you may have learned that you are not good enough, no matter how much you try. If you experienced rejection, you may have formed an identity that expects rejection. If you failed at something important, you may have built an identity that avoids risk. Even without realizing it, these experiences become the foundation of who you think you are. Once this identity settles inside you, it becomes the filter through which you see everything. If the filter says, "I'm not capable," even when you succeed, you will dismiss it as luck. If the filter says, "I always struggle," you will overlook solutions and focus on difficulties. If the filter says, "I don't matter," you will choose relationships that don't value you. The identity decides what feels normal, familiar, and comfortable, even if comfort means staying in pain. This is why people often return to old patterns. They are not choosing what's best for them, they are choosing what aligns with who they believe they are. Someone who believes they are destined to struggle will keep finding reasons to struggle, even when opportunities appear. Someone who believes they are unlucky will interpret every neutral event as proof that life is against them. Someone who believes they are unworthy of love will push away people who genuinely care. The identity is like a magnet. It attracts what matches and repels what conflicts with it. Your timeline cannot surpass your identity. You may try to force a new life with willpower, discipline, or motivation, but if the inner identity has not shifted, the old timeline will pull you back. This is why some people return to toxic relationships, unhealthy habits, or limiting routines, even after promising to change. The behavior was altered temporarily, but the identity remained untouched. They may say, "This time will be different," but their subconscious whispers, "This is who you are," and life reflects that voice. When your identity expands, your timeline expands with it. The moment you begin seeing yourself as someone capable, intelligent, worthy, resourceful, and deserving, your decisions change. You no longer tolerate disrespect. You choose relationships that uplift you. You take opportunities you once feared. You stop seeking permission and start taking action. You stop asking if you can and start deciding that you will. This internal shift triggers new thoughts, emotions, and behaviors that align with a higher version of yourself. Your reality must adjust to match the new identity. Identity transformation is not about pretending. It is about remembering who you truly are beneath the layers of doubt, hurt, fear, and conditioning. It is about rewriting the story you once accepted without questioning. You begin by observing the beliefs you've been carrying for years. Where did they come from? Who taught you to think that way? Are they even true? When you question these beliefs, many of them fall apart because they were never yours to begin with. They were given to you by wounded people or difficult experiences, yet you built your whole life around them. Changing your identity is the most powerful form of healing because it shifts everything else automatically. You no longer need to force change on the outside. The moment you stop seeing yourself as broken, your relationships improve. The moment you see yourself as worthy, you attract better opportunities. The moment you see yourself as capable, you begin acting with courage. Life responds to who you are being, not what you are wishing for. You do not get what you want, you get what you believe you are. Update the identity, and the timeline must shift. The future you want already exists, but you aren't aligned yet. Every possibility you dream about, a peaceful mind, a loving relationship, strong confidence, financial freedom, spiritual growth, or a life filled with meaning already exists. There is a version of you living that life right now, just on a different timeline. That version isn't luckier, more gifted, or chosen. They are simply aligned with the beliefs, emotions, behaviors, and inner frequency required for that reality. The problem is not that your future is unavailable. The problem is that you have not yet become the version of yourself who naturally belongs in that future. Imagine timelines like radio stations. They are all broadcasting at the same time, but you only hear the one you are tuned into. If you want to listen to a different station, you don't shout at the radio or blame it. You simply adjust the frequency. In the same way, your desired timeline is already broadcasting, but your subconscious frequency may still be tuned to old wounds, fears, and limiting beliefs. You have to shift from the inside before you can experience a new reality on the outside. Many people think the future is something they must chase. They run toward new goals, new plans, and new dreams, hoping that external change will lead to internal fulfillment. But the truth is the opposite. The inner shift comes first, and then reality adjusts. You don't attract your future by running toward it. You attract it by becoming the person who already lives there. If you want peace, you must learn to regulate your mind and emotions. If you want abundance, you must release beliefs that equate wealth with danger or hardship. If you want love, you must cultivate self-worth, trust, and emotional openness. Without alignment, the future stays out of reach. Alignment means your identity, beliefs, and behaviors match the life you are calling in. For example, someone who dreams of success but secretly believes they're unworthy will subconsciously reject opportunities, avoid risks, or shrink in moments where they need to stand strong. Someone who desires a loving partner but is terrified of vulnerability will unconsciously block emotional intimacy. In each case, the internal program contradicts the external desire. The universe is not refusing you. You are refusing yourself. This is why some people's lives do not change, even when they move to new environments, take new jobs, or meet new people. External change without internal alignment is temporary. The timeline eventually resets to match the inner self. Your future requires a new level of thinking, emotional maturity, and self-concept. You can walk toward your visions, but unless your beliefs support them, you will always fall back into the familiar cycles that feel safe. The version of you living your desired future thinks differently. They are not held back by the same fears, insecurities, and emotional wounds. They make choices grounded in clarity rather than survival. They allow themselves to receive. They are open to new experiences. They trust themselves. They take action even when uncertain. They don't sabotage opportunities. They don't choose pain over peace. They don't settle. They don't repeat the past. Becoming this version of yourself is not about forcing change. It is about releasing everything preventing your evolution, outdated beliefs, toxic identities, emotional baggage, and narratives inherited from other people. It means letting go of the version of you who was shaped by trauma, fear, and limitation. It means giving yourself permission to grow into someone new. To align with your future, you must examine what is currently misaligned. Do you believe you deserve what you want? Do you believe life supports you? Do you trust your inner voice? Do you feel safe receiving love, money, peace, or success? If not, that is where the real work begins, not with action, but with inner transformation. Because the universe responds to your energetic state before it responds to your effort. Your nervous system also plays a role. If it learned that stress and chaos are normal, it will resist peace. If it learned that love leads to pain, it will push love away. If it learned that scarcity is reality, it will fear abundance. The nervous system holds emotional memory, and until those memories are rewritten, your inner world will continue vibrating at the same old frequency, even if your mind wishes for something different. This is why healing is essential. Healing doesn't just make you feel better, it changes your alignment. Instead of reacting from trauma, you respond from clarity. Instead of expecting disappointment, you expect possibility. Instead of holding tension, you relax into flow. When the emotional energy within you shifts, your environment begins to reflect that shift. You notice new opportunities that were always there, but hidden from your previous state of awareness. You meet new people who match your evolving energy. You make new choices that lead to different outcomes. You stop fighting your life and begin dancing with it. The future timeline is not ahead of you, it is within you, waiting to be expressed through your decisions and energy. You do not walk toward that timeline. That timeline emerges the moment you become the person capable of holding it. Everything you want is on the other side of inner alignment. It is not a matter of force. It is a matter of becoming. When you change your inner world, your outer world cannot remain the same. The moment you shift emotionally, mentally, and energetically, you step onto a new path without even realizing it. People around you will notice you speak differently, choose differently, respond differently. You hold yourself to a higher standard. You create boundaries. You trust your intuition. The external world mirrors this newfound identity. You are not waiting for your future. Your future is waiting for you to rise into alignment with it. The moment you do, the timeline shifts, and life begins unfolding in ways that once felt impossible. How to shift your timeline from within? Shifting your timeline is not about forcing life to bend to your will. It is not about controlling outcomes, chasing opportunities, or begging the universe to give you something different. Real transformation begins where most people rarely look inside the hidden layers of the self. The inner world is the foundation of the timeline you experience. When the inner world changes, the outer world must follow. Every new reality begins as a silent shift within you. A new belief, a new emotional truth, a new identity, a new way of seeing yourself and the world. Shifting timelines is not magic. It is the natural result of inner alignment. The first step is learning to sit with your pain instead of running from it. Most people avoid uncomfortable feelings by distracting themselves with work, relationships, entertainment, achievement, or routine. They misunderstand emotional discomfort as weakness, but the truth is that pain is not the enemy. It is a messenger. It carries information about what still needs to be understood, accepted, and released. When you allow yourself to feel fully without resistance, denial, or judgment, the emotional energy trapped inside begins to soften. You stop being controlled by the wound because you finally acknowledge it. Feeling is the first step toward freeing. The next step is recognizing the beliefs that have quietly governed your life. These beliefs often hide beneath the surface. They whisper that you are not enough, that life is difficult, that love cannot be trusted, that you are alone, or that you must earn your worth. These beliefs are not truths. They are memories formed during painful or confusing moments, yet your subconscious treats them as instructions. To change your timeline, you must challenge these beliefs and replace them with ones grounded in clarity, not fear. This does not happen instantly. It is a process of noticing when the old voice speaks and choosing a new response, again and again, until the new belief becomes your default. Once your beliefs begin to shift, your emotional patterns follow. Instead of reacting from fear or trauma, you respond from a calmer, more empowered place. This emotional regulation is essential because your emotions, more than your thoughts, shape your energetic state. When you learn to hold a peaceful inner state, even when life is uncertain, you begin to attract experiences that reflect that peace. When you learn to trust rather than panic, opportunities reveal themselves where previously you saw only problems. Your emotional energy becomes the invitation that draws new timelines toward you. Visualization is another powerful tool, not because it forces the universe to act, but because it reprograms the subconscious to accept a new identity. When you sincerely picture yourself living as the version of you that is healed, confident, and capable, the subconscious begins to adjust its expectations. The mind sees the imagined state as evidence of possibility. Over time, it becomes more comfortable with this new version of self, making it easier to take actions that align with that identity. You stop acting from who you were and begin acting from who you are becoming. But visualization alone is not enough. You must embody the new version of yourself in your daily life. Embodiment means behaving as if the shift has already occurred. If you want confidence, you practice speaking truthfully and standing firmly, even when afraid. If you want abundance, you show up with responsibility, clarity, and resourcefulness. If you want love, you treat yourself with the same kindness you hope to receive from others. Small behaviors create large energetic shifts. Every action that reflects the new identity strengthens the connection to the new timeline. Letting go is also essential. Many people stay stuck because they continue feeding old energetic attachments, past relationships, painful memories, unresolved anger, resentment, guilt, and self-blame. These emotional threads tether you to the old timeline. You cannot step into a new life while holding on to the emotional weight of yesterday. Letting go does not mean erasing the past. It means releasing the grip it has on your identity. You thank the past for its lessons, acknowledge how it shaped you, and then choose not to live inside it anymore. You make peace with what happened, even if it was unfair, because staying tied to it only keeps you from what could be. Another critical aspect is trusting the process. When you shift internally, life does not always change instantly. There may be moments of uncertainty, confusion, or silence. During this time, the old timeline is dissolving and the new one is forming. If you panic and revert to old behaviors, you reinforce the old identity and delay the shift. But if you remain steady, grounded, and aligned with your new state, the external world eventually rearranges to match your inner transformation. Trust is the bridge that carries you from who you were to who you are becoming. You will also notice that your intuition becomes stronger the more aligned you are. Intuition is the inner compass that guides you toward the timeline meant for you. It nudges you toward people, decisions, and opportunities that serve your evolution. It warns you when something is not aligned. When you are disconnected from yourself, intuition is faint. When you are aligned, it becomes clear. Learning to follow that inner voice, even when it challenges your comfort zone, is a sign that you are stepping into a new timeline. Eventually, your external reality begins to shift in ways that feel subtle at first. People who drain your energy fall away. New relationships appear that support your growth. Opportunities arise that align with your talents and desires. You begin noticing that what once triggered you no longer holds power. You stop fighting life and begin working with it. These changes are not coincidences. They are reflections of the shift within you. The transformation is complete when your old life no longer feels like home, not because you hate it, but because you have outgrown it. Your thoughts, choices, emotional patterns, and inner knowing have evolved. The new timeline becomes the only logical place to exist. You no longer have to force change. You simply live in alignment with who you have become, and reality follows effortlessly. The timeline changes because you changed, not the other way around. You do not need to chase your future. You only need to become the person who naturally lives there. The moment you do, the world opens. Paths appear, people arrive. Life unfolds in harmony. Shift happens first within, then everywhere else. Your environment reflects your inner state change. Within, change without. Most people try to change their lives by rearranging the outside world. They switch jobs when they feel stuck, end relationships when they feel hurt, travel to new places when they feel lost, or chase new goals when they feel unfulfilled. But even after making these changes, they often find themselves experiencing the same frustrations, the same emotional patterns, the same sense of emptiness. This is because change on the outside is temporary if nothing has shifted within. Your environment is not separate from your inner world. It is a reflection of it. The people you attract, the opportunities you notice, the habits you keep, the lifestyle you maintain, all of these mirror what is happening inside you. Your inner world is the architect. The external world is just the construction. If the architect keeps drawing the same blueprint, the building will always look the same, no matter how many times you rebuild it. This is why someone can leave a toxic relationship but end up with another partner who treats them the same way. It is why someone can change careers but still feel undervalued. It is why someone can move to another city, hoping for a fresh start, but still carry the same loneliness. The external world cannot exceed the design of the internal blueprint. This is not a punishment. It is a law of consciousness. The universe responds to your internal state, not your desires alone. If you are filled with self-doubt, you will unconsciously move toward environments that confirm your doubt. If you carry unresolved pain, you will find yourself in situations where that pain is triggered again. If you believe deep down that life is hard, even the simplest situations will feel heavy. But when your inner state changes, when you cultivate clarity, confidence, peace, and self-worth, the external world begins to rearrange. People respond to you differently. Opportunities that once felt closed begin to open. You find yourself walking into environments that support your evolution rather than reflect your wounds. Think about how you have seen this play out in your own life. There were moments when you felt insecure or uncertain, and everything around you seemed to reflect that instability. Even small challenges felt overwhelming. But there were also moments when you felt strong, confident, and clear, and suddenly life felt supportive. Conversations flowed, doors opened, and even difficulties felt easier to handle. The outside did not magically change, your internal state shifted, and the world adjusted accordingly. Your nervous system plays a central role in this process. If your body is wired for stress, survival, and chaos because of past trauma, then environments filled with conflict or instability will feel familiar. Your body will unconsciously gravitate toward them, even if consciously you say you want peace. On the other hand, environments that are calm, stable, or loving may feel foreign or uncomfortable. This is why some people feel restless when life becomes peaceful. Their inner state is not yet aligned with calmness, so peace feels unnatural. When the inner world is chaotic, peace feels threatening. When the inner world is wounded, love feels unsafe. When the inner world is small, opportunity feels overwhelming. This is why inner healing is the most powerful environmental change you can make. When you release old trauma from the body, the nervous system becomes more balanced. You start recognizing safety not in chaos, but in calmness. You stop seeking validation through suffering and begin allowing ease into your life. You stop feeling threatened by love and begin embracing real connection. You stop clinging to old patterns because they no longer define your identity. As your internal state evolves, your body no longer craves what once harmed you. The environments you choose begin to reflect your growth rather than your wounds. Your relationships will change as well. People who were aligned with the old version of you may begin to fall away, not because something is wrong, but because you are no longer compatible with the energy that once held you. This can feel painful, but it is necessary. You cannot become someone new while holding on to relationships that only recognize who you used to be. As you shift, you will attract people who resonate with your new identity, people who see your value, honor your truth, and encourage your growth. Healthy relationships appear when you are ready for them internally, not before. Your career and opportunities will evolve too. When you believe in your abilities and value, you stop settling for less. You take actions that reflect your potential. You speak with confidence. You pursue paths that align with your purpose. Instead of shrinking to fit the world, you allow the world to adjust to your presence. Sometimes this means letting go of roles that once felt comfortable but no longer nurture you. Other times, it means stepping into unfamiliar territory that challenges you to grow. The external shifts naturally unfold once the internal alignment is in place. Even your physical environment begins to shift. You may feel drawn to new surroundings, calmer homes, brighter spaces, nature, new communities. You might lose interest in places that once entertained you because your energy no longer aligns with them. The environments you seek begin to nourish your inner state rather than distract you from it. You realize that peace is not something you chase. It is something you carry within, and you naturally gravitate to environments that reflect it. This is the essence of timeline shifting. It is not about hoping the world changes first. It is about becoming someone for whom a different world naturally unfolds. When you elevate your inner world, your external world rises with you. It may take time, but the shift is inevitable. You do not need to force it. You only need to embody it. The world around you cannot remain the same when you have changed deeply within. Reality adjusts to match your new level of consciousness because it has no choice. It always reflects the observer. Your environment, relationships, opportunities, challenges, patterns is feedback. It shows you where you are aligned and where you are not. It reveals what still needs healing and what has already transformed. When you stop fighting the outside and begin working with the inside, you reclaim your power. You stop trying to control what you see and begin shaping who is doing the seeing. Once the inner observer shifts, the projection changes automatically. You are not trapped by your environment. Your environment is shaped by who you believe yourself to be. When you change that belief, when you change your inner state, your timeline shifts, and a new life begins unfolding with surprising ease. Your body remembers what your mind tries to forget. Most people believe emotional pain lives only in the mind, in memories, thoughts, and beliefs. But the truth is much deeper. Your body holds onto your past just as strongly as your mind does. Every intense emotion you have ever experienced, fear, heartbreak, shame, loss, betrayal, abandonment, leaves an imprint not only in your memories but also in your nervous system, your muscles, your breathing patterns, and your physical posture. The body stores what the mind cannot process. This means trauma is not just a story from your past, it is a living experience inside you right now. When something overwhelming happens, your body reacts before your mind understands. Your heart races, your breathing shortens, Your muscles tighten, your stomach knots, your chest feels heavy. Even after the event is over, the body keeps the score. If the emotion is too intense to fully feel in the moment, the body absorbs it so that you can keep functioning. This is a brilliant survival strategy, but it comes with a cost. What is not felt and released becomes stuck. It waits inside you, silently shaping your reactions, decisions, and sense of safety in the world. This is why people often experience anxiety without knowing why. They are not afraid of the present. Their body is still responding to the past. A simple conversation, tone of voice, or change in environment can trigger old emotions that have nothing to do with the current moment. The mind might say, "Everything is fine," but the body feels threatened because it remembers something unresolved. The nervous system cannot distinguish between then and now. It only reacts to emotional patterns. This is why healing must include the body. You cannot think your way out of trauma that your body never had the chance to release. Many behavioral patterns are created by these trapped sensations. Someone who holds fear in their chest may struggle to speak openly or stand up for themselves. Someone who carries grief in their heart may find it difficult to trust love. Someone who stores anxiety in their stomach may constantly second-guess their decisions. The body becomes a map of the emotional journey you have lived. And unless you learn how to work with the body, you will continue repeating the same emotional experiences, no matter how much you understand them mentally. This is also why certain memories return unexpectedly. You may think you have moved on, but then a scent, a song, a place, or a person suddenly brings back the old feeling. That feeling didn't come from your mind alone, it was awakened from the body. The body remembers the emotional truth, even when the mind forgets the details. In fact, many people cannot recall the specifics of their trauma, yet their body still responds with fear, numbness, or tension. Memory is layered. Thought memory lives in the brain, while emotional memory lives in the body. This explains why healing cannot be rushed. You can tell yourself that you are fine, that it's over, that you've moved on. But your body has its own timeline. It needs time, safety, and gentle awareness to release what it has held for so long. The body does not respond to force. It responds to presence, to moments when you sit quietly with your sensations, allowing them to rise and dissolve without judgment. At first, this can be uncomfortable. You may feel restless, emotional, or confused, but over time, the body begins to trust that it is finally safe to let go. When you begin healing physically, everything changes. Your breathing becomes deeper and calmer, your muscles relax, and your heart no longer feels guarded. You start recognizing tension before it controls you, and your emotional responses become more grounded. Instead of reacting from old wounds, you respond from clarity. The sense of danger that once lived in your nervous system slowly dissolves. You become more present, more open, and more capable of receiving life without fear. This physical release also affects your identity. When the body lets go, you stop seeing yourself through the lens of trauma. You cease identifying as someone who is broken or unwanted. You begin to feel worthy without needing external validation. You carry yourself differently. Your posture lifts, your voice steadies, your presence strengthens. You no longer live in defense mode. You start to experience your life with curiosity rather than caution. As the body heals, new behaviors naturally emerge. You begin making different choices, not because you forced yourself to change, but because your body no longer pulls you back into survival mode. You pursue opportunities that once felt intimidating. You open up to relationships that once felt risky. You trust your intuition without being overloaded by fear. You rest without guilt. You move through the world with a sense of inner safety that was previously missing. This is when your timeline truly shifts. The body is the gateway. When your nervous system no longer interprets life as a threat, the external world stops reflecting threat back to you. You no longer attract chaos just to feel alive. You no longer seek pain because it feels familiar. You no longer cling to situations that match your inner wounds. Instead, you begin aligning with environments, relationships, and experiences that feel peaceful, supportive, and fulfilling. Even your perception of reality changes. What once felt overwhelming or frightening loses its power. What once seemed impossible now feels within reach. You stop living in the echo of old pain. You begin living from a place of grounded awareness. The body becomes a trusted ally rather than a battlefield. You are not your trauma. You are not the patterns your body learned to survive. You are not the memories that still feel unfinished. Those experiences shaped you, but they do not define you. Beneath the layers of tension and fear lives a self that has always been whole. Healing is not about becoming someone new. It is about uncovering the self that was always there beneath the pain. When the body releases what the mind tried to forget, the past finally stops repeating. You step out of survival and into creation. The timeline expands. A new reality opens not because the world changed, but because you finally felt safe enough to see it. The shift begins not in the mind alone, but in the body that still remembers. When both mind and body are aligned, you stop living through memory and begin living through presence. That is the moment the timeline truly transforms. In the end, your life is not shaped by chance, luck, or outside forces. It is shaped by the quiet architecture within you, the beliefs you hold, the wounds you carry, the memories stored in your body, and the identity you silently return to each day. You are not stuck because the world refuses to change. You are stuck because a past version of you is still holding the steering wheel. The timelines you continue to revisit are reflections of your inner state. They are the natural expression of unresolved emotions, unchallenged beliefs, and unhealed wounds repeating themselves through different faces, relationships, and circumstances. Every lesson you have heard is pointing to the same truth. Shift happens within. When you understand that the subconscious mind repeats emotional familiarity, that trauma keeps you frozen in old identities, that the observer effect turns your inner state into external reality, and that unhealed experiences continue to manifest in your present, you begin to see why life has felt like an endless loop. The same emotions, the same endings, the same disappointments. It was never a curse. It was a message. That message asks you to pause and look within. If you want a different timeline, you must stop trying to change the world before you change the self. The future you desire already exists. The success, the peace, the love, the abundance, they are not dreams floating beyond your reach. They are versions of life that open only when you align with the person who can hold them. You cannot enter a new reality while speaking the language of the old self. You must release who you were to make space for who you are meant to become. This journey begins with self-awareness, becoming honest about your emotional patterns, your limiting beliefs, and the ways you protect yourself from pain. It deepens with healing, allowing long-buried emotions to rise and dissolve, letting your body finally exhale what it has carried for years. It expands with identity, choosing to rewrite the quiet story that tells you who you are and what you deserve. It becomes real through embodiment, living each day as if you already belong to the timeline you desire. It settles into your nervous system when you learn to trust that transformation takes time, that evolution cannot be rushed, and that every moment of inner work is adjusting the frequency of your life. As you change internally, the world responds. People treat you differently, not because they changed, but because you did. Opportunities appear, not because life suddenly became generous, but because you finally felt worthy of receiving. Old patterns fade, not because someone rescued you, but because you stopped repeating the same emotional story. You begin to understand that what once felt like destiny was only a reflection of an unexamined identity. When the identity expands, destiny expands. This path requires courage. It asks you to face the parts of yourself you once hid from the fears, the memories, the insecurities, the tenderness. But when you meet those parts with understanding instead of judgment, they stop controlling your life. They begin to heal, they soften, they integrate. And as your inner world finds peace, the outer world follows. This is how timelines shift, quietly at first, then all at once. One day, you will look back and see that the old version of yourself was never flawed, only wounded. That the loops you lived were not punishments, only invitations to grow. That the pain you carried was not a weight, only a door waiting to be opened. Without those experiences, you would not have found the strength to evolve. You would not have learned what needed to be healed. You would not have understood the power that lives within you. You were never powerless. You only needed to remember that the observer within you is the author of your timeline. The moment you choose to see differently, life begins to arrange itself around that vision. The moment you decide to let go, space opens for new possibilities. The moment you honor your worth, the world reflects it. You do not have to force anything. As you shift internally, the reality around you shifts to match who you have become. You are always one decision away from a new timeline. Not a decision made from fear or desperation, but a decision born from clarity. I am ready to become who I truly am. When you choose that path, life unfolds in ways that once felt unreachable. Not because the world changed, but because you finally aligned with the version of yourself who could see the doors that were always there. Your timeline is not fixed. It is fluid, responsive, and alive. It mirrors your consciousness. When you awaken to this truth, you reclaim your power. You stop waiting for permission. You stop waiting for signs. You understand that you are the sign. The moment you shift within, you step into a new reality. This is the quiet miracle of inner work. You transform your life not by fighting the world, but by transforming the one who perceives it. Everything begins and ends with you. The timeline changes when you do. Shift happens within. The rest follows.